Questions 51 through 53. All right, now we're in the Part C section, and there's 35 questions in this section. Base your answers to questions 51 through 53 on the map below, which shows a portion of New York State and Canada. The arrows represent the direction of the wind blowing over Lake Ontario for several days early one winter. 51. Explain why Oswego, New York usually gets more snow than Toronto, Canada, when the wind is blowing in the direction shown on the map. Okay, one of the things that I really make sure my students do is make sure after you answer the question, go back and read the question again and make sure that you're answering what the question is asking. Sometimes you have these preconceived ideas in your head and you want to just write them down because they seem like you'd be right, but you're not necessarily answering the question perfectly. And I'll show you exactly what the state is looking for, and I'll show you their answer key after we answer these. So, 51. Explain why Oswego, New York usually gets more snow than Toronto, Canada when the wind is blowing in the direction shown on the map. Well, if you look over here, Toronto is over here, and our friendly neighbor Canada, and Oswego is over here. And Oswego is very, very snowy. It gets a lot of snow due to a lake effect from Lake Ontario. So essentially what happens is that the wind blows across from Canada, across Lake Ontario, towards Oswego and Rochester and Syracuse, and all these areas got a lot of snow. So the reason that they get it is because there's so much evaporation taking place over Lake Ontario. There's so much moisture in the air that after it evaporates, the evaporation turns into snow and is released over Oswego. So a correct answer to write would be there's more snow in Oswego than Toronto because the lake effect blows all of the evaporation over Oswego, then it snows. And let's just look at what they accept as answers. I'm going to try not showing you everything here. And if you look at the bottom, it says, okay, the air travels over Lake Ontario towards Oswego, picking up the moisture that results in more snow. The air over Toronto contains less moisture, but a lake effect storm occur on the eastern side of the lake. Okay, some of this stuff's even confusing. I like this first one. You can either say there's more moisture from Oswego because of the lake and the wind blowing that way, or the air over Toronto contains less moisture. It's kind of straightforward, but I want to show you guys these answers that the state gives because when us teachers have to grade this, we can only accept specific things, right? There are kind of other things that we can take, and as long as you have the question correct, we can do it. But if you don't add in certain things like moisture, or it's dry, it's less moist, we can't give you credit for the answer. They're very, very strict, and it is certainly difficult to grade. Question number 52. Compared to the average winter air temperature in Watertown, New York, explain why the average winter air temperature at Old Forge in New York is colder. So the first thing you need to do is you need to find Watertown, and you need to find Old Forge. Well, whenever they're talking about generalized landscapes, we always want to go to our wonderful, wonderful reference table, of course. And I always tell you guys, you make sure you look at, this, the generalized bedrock, and the generalized landscapes. Okay, and for this one, you need the generalized landscapes. Now, you may look at this and you may say, how does this help me? Well, you have Lake Ontario right here, and although you really can't tell exactly where the two regions are, okay, we're looking for Watertown again, which is up here, so let's find it here. Okay, so it looks like it would be up here, okay, in the lowland plains. And if you look at Old Forge, it's located kind of next to it, but a little bit away. And if you come over, you slide over, up, and you're looking at the Adriatic Mountains. So, what do we know about mountains? We have higher elevation. When we have higher elevation or higher altitude, it's going to be colder. So, a correct answer would be the average winter air temperature in Watertown, New York, is not as cold as Old Forge because Old Forge is located in the mountains at a higher altitude. And let's see what New York State says we need to say. Okay, you get 1 credit for old forges located in the mountains. Okay, so that's nice and simple. Or a higher elevation, or Watertown is closer to a large body of water. Okay, that's a little more difficult to answer. Anytime you're closer to water, it helps you hold your temperature a little bit better. We'll get to that at some other point. And number 53. Explain why the surface of Lake Erie freezes much later in the winter than the surrounding land surfaces. There's kind of two trains of thought here. One you could say is that only the topsoil of the actual continent will freeze much more quickly. Okay, so you're only talking 18 inches of soil. When you're talking about Lake Ontario, I don't know exactly how deep it is, but I'm sure it's hundreds of feet deep. It's really, really deep. So to cool all that water down and then for it to totally freeze is going to take a long time. Another thing that you can look at, and really the way I originally thought of this question was, excuse me, is if you look at the specific heat of common materials, and you have liquid water up here, and it takes 4.18 joules per gram per degree Celsius. Okay, and I know this isn't really a chart that we look at that much. But what this just means is that it takes a lot of energy. Okay, joules. Really, it's just talking about energy. How much energy it takes to freeze these different things. Okay, not necessarily freeze them, but to change them from one thing to another, or to heat them up 1 degree Celsius takes up 4.18 joules per gram per degree Celsius. So that's a very high. Okay, it's by far the highest value here. So what you would say is that water has a high specific heat. But again, let's look at their answers, and they say water has a higher specific heat than land, or water takes longer time to cool than land, or land surfaces cool faster. Okay, that one goes back to my thing of, it's only 18 inches of soil that you're really freezing. So, okay, that is the first section here.